Kol halal, Yahawah, Bahashem, Yahawashi. All praises to the Most High Yahawah in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahawashi. We are all infested with parasites because of sin. We are all infested with parasites because of sin, and if you want to receive spiritual power, you must clean your temple and remove those parasites from your body. Let's take a look at an article from www.drclark.net. This particular piece of information, although you can find it in other places, is centered around Dr. Hulda Clark's research. I believe we covered her in a previous lesson, and she really hits the nail on the head regarding what's going on with our bodies, why are we so weak, and why are we so sick. Okay, so the title of this is We All Have Parasites. And it says, humans, like other animals, have always had parasites both outside and inside our bodies. It is easy to see in animals when you dissect a frog or a fish in a college classroom or high school. You would be taught that every organ has its parasite. Some are flukes, some are roundworms, some are tapeworms. And if you have an animal or a human infested with these parasites, it's never going to reach its full development potential physically, and certainly with humans, and certainly with humans mentally and spiritually, because in humans these parasites are a mechanism that the Most High used as a carnal it's a carnal punishment for sin in some ways, and also a spiritual one as well, because these parasites are conduits by which devils can possess us, as I've established in previous lessons. The next paragraph. Flukes are like little leeches. Well, I'll say one more point on that. And so many brothers are probably familiar with the fact that in ancient times, or even a few hundred years ago, we were much taller in stature and much stronger. What comes to mind are lessons that I saw brothers had done before when they had gone to museums and saw the sizes of various doors. I believe this was in New York. The sizes of various doors and other things there that suggested you had jakes that were very, very, very tall. Additionally, there's a piece of literature, I could find more information on that. It's outside the scope of the lesson right now, but I encourage you to do your research on that. Another thing that comes to mind is in the times of ancient Egypt, I read somewhere that requirements for guards, and this would have been found on some type of, I'm assuming, papyrus scroll or something like that. The requirements for guards were they had to lift, the equivalent of X hundreds of pounds. It was a very high amount. I want to say it was 500 or 1,000 pounds, something along those lines. Again, you have to go out and do your research, but an amount that today, would be very difficult for the vast majority of people to live. But back then, that was just a basic requirement to becoming a certain type of guard. If the spirit hits me, I'll do a lesson later on that, or if someone is aware of the links, please, post that information below. Flukes are like little leeches, stuck in one spot, just feeding and releasing eggs. The animal with the adult flukes, or human, is the primary host. The animal with the larva is a secondary host, usually a snail. Inside the snail, the larvae go through the development stages that suits the parasite's need to somehow hitchhike from animal to animal till it can reach its primary host again. This has changed since immunity dropped. The synchrometer finds that instead of requiring a single specific snail, many snails can be used as the secondary host. Lowered immunity allows shortcuts to be taken by the parasite because the vigilance of the immune system is gone. Okay, and again, that applies to humans as well. So if you reach a point where your immune system is very weak, or in the animals too, then these parasites no longer need to exit you or exit the host to complete their life cycle. They may not even need to travel around to specific areas of the body to complete their life cycle. I know from research that many parasites that reside in the human body often need to reproduce in the intestine, but if your immunity has been suppressed, then they may no longer need to do that. It says synchrometer. This is a device that was developed by Clark to identify where parasites are. I would even say you don't even need to get that. It's just all of these parasites need to go. You know that you have them. I'm positing just pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds in millions of them, even if microscopic. Again, from my experience, sort of links up with this. You don't need to buy fancy equipment. In fact, you can really clean up everything through simple prayer and fasting. But again, I've alluded to other methods such as oxygen therapy in previous lessons that may fit a bit better in with your lifestyle. But anyway, it's a topic I'll come back to later on. Humans go through infancy, childhood, teenage, and adulthood to reproduce and arrive at infancy again, all with the same purpose: to survive and thrive. Our parasites survive with us, but how they will thrive depends on your health, on our health. They do not thrive when we are healthy. Yes, it is a less healthy animal that is the most parasitized in nature. And I have also seen that with plants as well. Growing up, we had a huge garden, and I noticed it was always the weaker, smaller plants that had insects and bugs that were chewing them apart. It was very interesting to see because you could have, I'll take basil for example. You could have this beautiful, thriving basil bush, two of them on either side in a row, and then sandwiched between them would be this one sickly bush with all of these bugs on them. One memory that comes to mind is Japanese beetles, and they weren't touching like the vibrant plant, but they were eating that one in the like this weakened plant. And I always thought that's so interesting how the insects stayed off of the healthy plants and always attacked the weaker ones. I also noticed that the insects attacked hybrid vegetables as well. The whole crop of them, if it was a hybrid type of plant or vegetable, they would attack it. And not necessarily GMO, but I think this is why GMOs need so much pesticides and things like that, because the insects naturally come and destroy them because it's unnatural. But you can have hybrid vegetables like potatoes and other things, although not all potatoes are. But those would be, crops like that would be attacked as well, which is, again, it's very interesting. And I encourage people to do, encourage you brothers to do your research regarding hybrid vegetables. Hybrid vegetables are not things that you want to eat. If you want to start taking a look at that, one place to go is you can search or Google Dr. Sebi, although there's a lot of spiritual things that he's going totally off on. and kind of pick out the bones, but he will speak to hybrid vegetables and how we are not supposed to be eating those at all. In fact, he has a lot of good information around diet. But let me get back to the article. Parasites do not thrive when we are healthy. Right, our immune systems keep them in check. It needs a period there. In times of plentiful, nourishing food and clean water for animals, parasites do not take over the host animals. But if food is scarce and the water source is crowded with other animals, their general health declines and parasites thrive instead. So what it's saying is the environmental conditions are such that these animals are not as strong as they used to be. You can go ahead and throw toxic environment in there as well. We live in a world with toxic air, as again I've established in previous lessons, toxic air, toxic water, toxic everything. And these parasites thrive in toxic conditions. They thrive in toxic conditions. And I'm speaking in just a carnal sense, but this is true in, with toxic people, in a spiritual sense as well. The physical in many ways is a reflection of the carnal world we live in is a reflection of the heavens. That's another good topic. So many interesting things to say there. Without getting too far off topic, I saw a Jake physicist talk about the idea of a holographic universe. Google and research that word on Etim online, but basically that's saying it's a simulation, that's another word to look up, a reflection of something else. And it sounds like a very bizarre theory, but then when you think how the Bible speaks to that the earth is a reflection of the spiritual realm, it's just taking its time, to get there, so to speak. As in heaven, so on earth. Let me actually just pull that up. I apologize if I'm assuming a very high level of knowledge and study. I'm going to be glossing over a lot of details here. Many people, if they were previously Catholic, should know this. Matthew 6 and 10. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done as it is in heaven. And there's more scriptures on that, but let me table that topic for now. Poor health and parasitism go hand in hand, especially in today's world. We're far weaker than we were and live in a toxic environment. The roundworms look a lot like earthworms without feet or means of travel. A roundworm just wiggle. I didn't know earthworms had feet. I don't think so, but maybe I'm missing something here. A roundworm just wiggles and molts its skin off a number of times to grow till it is an adult. Our common roundworms are ascaris, strongyloids, and filara, long thin filaments like heartworms. Cats have learned to spit up their ascaris by eating grass. Now that I read this, I've noticed that when I was a kid, we had pets. We had dogs and we had cats. We also had various forms of livestock. Our animals, we were always deworming our livestock as well as our pet, and they would have worms. At times I'd see the worms in their stool. Obviously it's disgusting. But our pets it didn't happen all the time, but our pets would eat grass, and I always thought it was very unusual.